Welcome back to CN2 News. Today we have in the studio Harry Dest, and Harry is the 16th Circuit Public Defender. And Harry, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Lucas. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your job. What's the role of a public defender?
Well, a public defender is a licensed attorney who's responsible for handling cases where people are accused of committing a crime and they're too poor to hire an attorney. So the court decides that if someone is indigent or too poor to hire an attorney, then a public defender is assigned to that case. And we have 18 public defenders in the 16th Circuit Public Defender Office. 16 of those attorneys are in York and 2 are in Union.
But talk about the percentage of folks who need a public defender.
Yes, I think there's a big misconception. Most people, when they think about the criminal justice system and defense lawyers, they think of private attorneys or high-profile defense lawyers. Well, the reality is this, that 80% of the cases that are heard in the criminal justice system are represented by public defenders. In other words, public defenders represent 80% of the people that are accused of crimes. And so there's a tremendous responsibility placed upon us. And as we've often talked about, we are a nation of laws, and the Constitution certainly is the framework for that, that public defenders really are the people on the front lines defending those who are accused of crimes. And when we talk about the Constitution, one thing that I have mentioned to you before is that when we think about it, that 4 out of the 10 Bill of Rights, the amendments to the Constitution, deal with the rights of the accused. The Fourth Amendment, to be free from unreasonable search and seizures. The Fifth Amendment, the right to remain silent and not be compelled to make incriminating statements. The Sixth Amendment, which is the right to counsel and the right to a jury trial and the right to be tried in the locality where the offense occurred. The Eighth Amendment, which is dealing with excessive bond and cruel and unusual punishment.
How do you put in perspective, or what do you tell folks that have a hard time wrapping their head around what you do day in and day out?
Well, first thing, I want the public to know that it is extremely important to have zealous representation for those who are accused of a crime. Because these constitutional rights that we have not only apply to people who are accused, but they apply to the nation as a whole. In other words, when I protect the rights of a citizen, I'm also protecting the rights of the community at large, whether that's the Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, or the Eighth Amendment. But one thing that people don't realize is that if someone admits guilt, or the evidence is overwhelming and they have to plead guilty to a charge, the job of the attorney is not over. In fact, it's just beginning. Because as an attorney, we are responsible for presenting as much evidence as we can to explain to the court why someone may be pleading guilty and what the mitigating factors are. In other words, were they under the influence of drugs, or were they under the influence of alcohol, or did they have some kind of mental deficiency that can help explain the crime? It may not excuse the crime, but at least it is a factor that a judge should consider in making an appropriate sentence. So many times, if someone is pleading guilty, our job is to try to get that person on the right path, try to get a sentence that doesn't put them in jail for a long period of time, try to get them the type of rehabilitation and counseling that they need so that they can get on the right path, be rehabilitated, and be productive citizens.
How do you, at the end of the day, if you're trying one of these big cases, it's got a lot of attention, a lot of media attention, how do you put all of that in perspective that at the end of the day you have your job to do?
What I've learned in representing people is that you have to understand everything about their life. And many times people come from circumstances where they come from dysfunctional homes, they have mental illness, or they have drug and alcohol problems, and it makes them either fragile or broken people. It doesn't excuse what they did, but it helps explain it. And I think that as a lawyer, you have to really understand where people come from in order to be an effective advocate, in order to understand everything about the case, and to connect not only with your client, but connect with a jury if you're going to a jury trial, and connect with the judge to explain to the judge the special circumstances of your client's condition. You have to care a lot about what you do. And I believe in the system because I've seen it from both sides. I understand the importance of zealous representation. I understand that sometimes police officers don't do what they're supposed to do. And that when they do that, we have to call them out. We have to police the police.
But that doesn't mean that you're against police in general.
Oh, absolutely not.
But isn't that, I think that's the discord or disconnect that people might have, that they think because you argued this that you must be against that as well, or you're with your client in those regards.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for police officers and the job that they do. It's very demanding and at times very difficult. But I also have the most respect for the rule of law, and that no one is above the rule of law. No one, whether it's a defendant or a police officer, in terms of what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it. And so defense lawyers make sure that everyone is protected, make sure that the rules are followed, and make sure that people are represented within the bounds of the law, but also receive zealous representation.
Certainly an interesting career, that's for sure. Again, Harry Dest is the 16th Circuit Public Defender. 16th Circuit includes York and Union counties. Harry, thank you so much for the work you do for us here in our county. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, we'll be back with more right after this.
Carolina Connection is brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. For more information, visit foundersfcu.com. Relax, you're with Founders.